Coming up on today's episode, some space tourism news, a possible 400-mile Tesla, maybe, and some new efficient rocket engine technology that Tim is going to inform us all about. Let's get ludicrous. Hey there, and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future stuff that's happening right now that's going to make our future totally ludicrous. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers to Joe YouTube channel. With me is Tim Dodd.
Oh, hey. It's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, still in Florida because why not? And I'm also from the internet, and with us, I think peeing in the corner right now is Ben Solons.
Hey guys, It's Ben Solons from Teslanomics. You like the little intro there?
No, I thought you were sick and dying.
I'm on drugs.
So he's on drugs.
I'm a little loopy right now, which we'll see how it does. Maybe that's how people like me, and I'll just start doing drugs regularly. I mean,
that's some good stuff, actually. That's sort of your body's dead, but your brain is on fire kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah,
your inhibitions are a little gone. You know, you start.
What are you?
Eating things you're not supposed to eat.
Medicine?
Yeah. Dayquil. I'm hopped up on some Dayquil right now.
That doesn't
do drugs, kids.
The show must go on.
That has an effect like that? What are you guys talking about? You guys are crazy.
Apparently, you've never done enough of it. So there you go, Tim. Next time you're in San Diego, we shall.
No Dayquil. So anyway,
okay. So Tim is stuck in Florida because you're having some car issues that I desperately want to hear about.
Well, I was planning to still be in Florida anyway. I'm going to be here the whole month of February, so it wasn't part of the car. But yeah, I don't have a car. Well, they gave me a Model S, but I don't have my car right now.
So you've got a better one.
Yes, I've got a better one.
Hardware 1 can't even change lanes, man. It's lame.
It should be able to. Mine does.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I haven't tried.
Do they have lanes in Florida?
Yeah. Lanes are kind of a suggestion.
Optional. Yeah. So I don't have my car right now. It's gone.
What happened though? Because you posted this tweet.
Yep. So there was a pretty big downpour. Like, I guess Floridians were just like, what? That was just rain. But like, it was really, really strong for me. And next to my hotel is at the time was the Cocoa Beach Pier, and that you can plug in there on a Tesla charger, destination charger. So I was just topping off or trying to get back to topped off, and it was raining really hard. But you have to move your car by 10 o'clock or else they start towing. So I waited until like the rain was done really pouring because it was like torrential downpour type of thing. And I'm like, fine. So it's like 10:20. So I go out there, run out there to get my car and move it and put it into the hotel parking lot. And I can see my car from the hotel. So it's like literally just like out the back of the hotel is this parking lot, right? And I start running, and like while I'm running as I cross the street, I cross a puddle about ankle deep. Like my shoe gets wet, but I don't even think my pants really got wet, And I was like, oh, there's some water on the road. Not at all a big deal. I unplug my car, start driving. Drive it through that puddle, and like at one more street worth of puddle, like it's collected. It's a few inches. It's maybe, I don't know, a couple centimeters or something. It's not much. Like I definitely would have never considered not doing that in any other car, like at all. Like I would have driven that in a motorcycle, or what I mean, like just totally normal puddles. And all of a sudden, right as I'm like almost pulling into the hotel, stuff starts popping up. Like it said, vehicle. The first one was vehicle might not restart. Vehicle requires service, and I was like, what?
Yikes!
And so I was like, okay. So I got some of the stuff out of the car just in case, that stuff that I needed for the launch the next day, because this was on Sunday night. And good thing I did, because Monday morning when I went out to the car, nothing. Like the car was absolutely zapped. Couldn't get into it at all. Key fob didn't work, app wasn't connecting, nothing. So, that
So you
means
couldn't even open the door?
Couldn't even open the door.
By conventional methods.
By conventional methods, which is frustrating. I really wish that there was a manual back, because there's a manual, to be clear, if you're listening and you're like, that's so dangerous. If you're inside the car, there's always a manual release.
Yeah.
There's a full, all
seat.
4 doors. In the front seat, not the back?
Not the back.
No.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, the front 2 seats, you can get out with like an emergency pull hatch, which a lot of people mistake for the actual door handles.
And it could damage the window and all that, which happens all the time in the Model X because if you open it so people that aren't familiar, there's no like frame around the window, so the window goes in to create a seal, and if you open it, it'll like knock it out, so it'll mess up the alignment of the window.
Yeah, yep, and ruin that's the rubber seal. So the Model 3, if you just pop it open, push it open really hard, you're actually shoving the window kind of through the seal, basically. And so normally when you open the door, when you hit the button and open the door, the window first pops down and then pushes the door open, so it clears that seal. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the car was I couldn't get into it. So I luckily just had a different car option and got a ride out there, and it wasn't that big of a deal for me. Meanwhile, I just pulled up the Tesla app, hit the service button, and by the time I got back from the launch, they had towed it already to Orlando for me and gotten it into the service center. And I'm still waiting now. That was Monday. Today is Thursday as we record this. It took 2 days, 48 hours basically for it to get into the shop because they're so swamped. Swamped. Wow. But I don't think it necessarily has to do with it's not like the rainstorm. I think it's just literally because there's so many new cars on the road. This one poor service center is having double, triple the cars that it did a year ago, basically, when you think about it that way. So they're just that busy. So I'm hoping to get the car back pretty soon. It's everything I've read. And from their initial guesses that the 12-volt system got fried or something happened with the 12-volt system, the subsystem.
That's easy. Yeah.
And there's also a plug that the early Model 3s had that if that plug actually hit water, got submerged, which apparently is like 6 or 9 inches. It's like at the bottom of the drive unit or something. That plug would break loose and it would like destroy the 12-volt
They're
system.
like, where should we put this plug that would destroy the entire car? How about right at the bottom? How about right there?
Yeah, something like that. So I'm waiting to hear still what's going on. I will say, yeah, my overall consensus is one, it sucks that you can't get into the car if that 12-volt system dies. That's not good, in my opinion. I would have preferred to be able to have some kind of manual backup. But again, people, remember with your phone, normally your phone opens the door. They do have a manual backup for your phone if your phone dies with the key card to be able to get in. So they've solved that. But if the car itself, so it's not the main battery pack. The main battery pack was like 70% full. It's this subsystem 12-volt battery. If that dies, you don't have access to your door locks or anything.
There's a flip side of that, which is interesting. So when I drove mine to 0, the battery pack was dead, but I could still open the doors and do all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of works both ways, I guess.
That's probably safer because, if you don't want someone to drive their car to empty and all of a sudden they can't steer or brake, and do.
It was weird. Like when I did that, autopilot was even still showing up. Like the little icon to put it in autopilot. So I'm like, all these sensors and all these things are running still? Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though the car can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Number 2 would be, there's so many videos and people talking about how you can submerge, like a Tesla can drive basically floating. Elon's even mentioned it on Twitter. Like, yeah, Teslas can basically be like a boat for a short period of time because you can't flood the engine. There's no engine to have an intake and suck in water, and flood the engine because it's all electric motors. But this is unusual, I think. So don't take this as like, oh, you can't even get a Tesla wet. This was a design fault. Just like, it's funny. I called my parents about this, and last time they were, not last time, but they were here in February 2018 for the Falcon Heavy launch, and their Honda Odyssey broke down. Like a brand new one, like literally brand new. So this type of stuff happens. I love when people just like, oh my God, see,
Busted.
Tesla's busted, can't even drive it. Like, I put 40,000 miles on this car. This is the first incident it's ever had. That's actually pretty good. A lot of brand new cars, you take them in, and it's not. I'm not excusing it, but like it's normal. There's always little things.
The one thing there that comes to mind for me is what Rich Rebuilds has been harping on the whole time is that they should certify other companies to be able to maybe not even like fix them, but just inspect them and figure out what the deal is. So that's a point that I think Rich has that's fair, is it would be nice to have other non-Tesla companies and shops be able to either repair it or inspect certain elements. It's common where a shop can only do certain work, and then other work maybe needs to go to the manufacturer. So I think that they're going to have to open that up eventually. There's just far too many vehicles. And they can set up all the service centers they want, but the pace of that is not going to outpace 1,000 new cars a day,
Right.
And if that is a simple fix, and I don't know if it is or not, but I mean, there's no reason why a third party couldn't, just kind of have
change
those parts
that battery,
and, switch that out or whatever.
Yeah, but maybe like if it's a battery pack issue, hey, okay, let Tesla deal with that. There's definitely like a hierarchy of how serious some of these issues are. Yeah.
Like TPS or the technical TSBs, technical service bulletins, recalls, like full blown recall. But like some of those TSBs let other people take care of them. I don't know.
Like changing the airbag is a pretty straightforward thing to do.
Right.
Like when that whole Takata airbag thing on the older ones. I think my Model X just had some kind of recall for a steering bolt or something. I forget. But it's funny because I literally just picked it up from the service center. I just picked it up from the service center, and I got that email. Like, fantastic.
No.
And they're like,
that's
well,
crazy.
that's the first we've heard of it, too. We don't even have parts for that. So we'll reach back out to you.
I just hate that it does kind of play right into some of the fudster comments, like you said. The people are like, oh, you can't drive it through water. And I'm like, oh, shut up. And then you drive through water and your car breaks down. I'm like, oh.
I know.
There's a hint of truth in a lot of these things. Tesla's not perfect. I think that's the message, maybe. So on both sides, it's not. But they're fantastic. So, I think both sides have a little bit of a
bias.
Truth to what they're saying. Yeah.
It's also been raining here a lot lately, so I've been driving through a lot of water myself.
Well, maybe maybe this will be a problem that a lot of Model 3s see, the early ones, because I think they did fix it on later ones. This is the stuff I had been reading on forums.
Because I got mine about the same time you did.
Yep. It does go to show, though, the whole thing, when they raised a bunch of money, we were talking about how they really need to put in more service centers and start building more parts for the service centers, like stop production for like 5 days and just make spare parts and all that stuff, what was it? And just more superchargers. Like if this is a year they just like didn't change anything else but just beefed up their back end, it would be a very good thing for the owners.
We all need to beef up our back ends sometimes. I'm talking about weightlifting, people. I don't know what you're thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, squats.
Joseph.
Beef up.
I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Or bicycle.
We all need more junk in our trunks.
Speaking of beefing up Teslas, there's
nice.
a new one coming out, or rumored, that will be able to do more than 400 miles of range. Tim, quick, how many kilometers?
600 kilometers, basically.
Okay, there you go.
Well done.
You heard it from him, and if it's incorrect, you can throw stuff at him. I authorize that. This is Jason Hughes from Twitter. Spent a little time reverse engineering some recent, I don't know where it went. Spent a little time re-engineering some recent Tesla BMS firmware, the battery management system. Variables were tweaked to fit 108 cell groups, a 450 volt pack, which is up from the current 400 volts, which means it should be able to charge a lot faster. There's a pack ID that starts life set to 109 kilowatt hours usable with 400 plus miles. Lots of other stuff related to the S, X, and 3 pack configs at some point. So,
that's awesome.
Interesting stuff. So the question is, would you guys, is this necessary? Should Tesla be doing this?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah? I think it's a good sign, too. But I also would like to see a $20,000 starting price, one that goes 150 miles or something like that. I would prefer to go more into the affordable. Let's see it, Joe.
Sorry. No, but the technology that they might have to employ to get to a 400-mile car could make a $20,000 car more possible because they can fit more
that's true.
battery in the less space or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. And for me, still, like, again, you know, I talk about this all the time. You guys know how much I road trip my Model 3, big, long distances. And currently, I think now the current updates of the Model S for a full day's drive, it would probably beat my Model 3 finally, now that it's, like, officially rated at 390 miles.
Yeah,
and
let's
they can
talk
charge
about
at
this
200.
too.
So we could actually do it on, you know, a better route planner or whatever, .com. We'd really be able to figure it out. But when I did it last, going the route that I take down to, down to Boca Chica and stuff like that from Iowa, or to Florida from Iowa, you can skip a bunch of chargers. You can skip, almost 2 full chargers when you're, from your starting point in a Model S compared to a Model 3. But again, it uses that watt hour per mile quite a bit higher. So therefore when you're charging, you have to charge longer to go the same distance.
Right.
So you'll charge for longer to go the same distance after that. But now if it's over 400 some miles, you're really, and now it can take a more sustained charge rate, charge up faster
if it can
for longer
charge
with a
faster,
bigger battery pack.
Yeah, if it can go 250 kilowatts, then it'll win hands down. But I won't believe that number until we actually see someone do it in real life, because the efficiency of the car is the best I've ever seen on a road trip like that is right around 70-75%. So that means that you would only get 70 to 75% of that number to begin with, unless you drove, say, 40 miles an hour or something like that. So it's a thing that's interesting. Yeah.
Oh man, on my road trips, if I fill up 100%, I'll easily get 300 miles, and I'll say 310. I don't push it that far. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, especially when you're in
efficiency.
When I get down to Florida, like on this particular last road trip from Iowa to Florida, sure, Iowa when it was 0 degrees out, really, really, really cold, terribly windy. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. I was lucky if I could get 200 miles almost, right? 60, that's 60% of the range. But then the further south I got, the second day of driving, which was further south, man, I was just cooking no problem, especially by the end. I was below the rated watt hour. I was going 8 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour.
That's good.
I was just cruising along the normal speed of traffic, and I was like 230 watt hours per mile, and the rated watt hour per mile is 240. Yeah. So I mean, I can hit that, and I've hit those numbers before. So
I want to see it. Is all I'm saying. It's at this point an estimate. So, and they changed the estimate, but there was no verbiage about what changed, right? Or maybe I missed it. Was there someone that said, hey, it's now 390 because we did X? Or was it just, hey, now it's 390?
I have a feeling they've been because it's the brand new ones. And it's really...
I just did a road trip in it, and it did not get near that.
In what? In a brand new Model S?
Correct.
With
the one Tesla gave me.
Update? With the software update?
Okay, so that was my question. So what was it that gave the 390?
A tweak in the efficiency
magic.
Of the motors.
Yeah. Anyways, my point is that from a data guy perspective, I need real world data, and so until I see that, I'm gonna say it's not real.
What was your range with the car that's currently rated at 370 when you drove it?
Charged, I think, to 325 or something, and then when I drove it, I got about 260, and it was going on a flat road from San Diego to Las Vegas. There is an elevation gain there, though. So, but yeah, it wasn't great at all. I think it was like a 68 or 69% efficiency overall is what I tracked. So, 320 or whatever times 69, say 70%. The 21-inch something or other, I don't really know. It's a thing. My whole point is that we can put numbers on a website all we want. Right. I want to see real world tests, and I kind of I want to talk to the NHTSA and the WLTP about this, because I think it's not helpful. It probably hurts the argument when you say, oh, it can go 390 miles, and then somebody gets it, and if they get 300, they're lucky. That doesn't help. I think EV adoption. Right. I think we should try to be more realistic.
Yep.
So that's my only point there. So, but if they can get over 400, and then that makes the battery pack cheaper, so they can sell a really cheap car, I think that would be Right now, that's where my head is at. Like, we need cheaper EVs for more mass market people. We don't need more $250,000 Porsches that Bill Gates buys. We don't. That's like not what we need to help spur this, movement.
Yeah. Well, the range anxiety argument, as we all know, people who actually drive these cars, it's not really a thing. But I feel like Elon's stated goal from the beginning was not just to have a car that competed with gas cars, but one that was better in every way.
Yeah.
And I think that upping the range to levels that can actually surpass a gasoline car is part of that.
Fair point.
So I'm in favor of it for that reason. But also just living in Texas.
Also in the and also in the same way that, if right now you're getting 260, 270 out of a car that's supposed to get 390, like, we still got a long ways to go. So keep upping that battery pack, because it should be no problem to hop and do a 300-mile road trip without any considerations. Really,
I think the furthest I've got is 280, 281 maybe, and that was driving it to where it stopped. And that in my Model 3 through the desert.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully, they keep doing this and it keeps getting better. These numbers are wacky, though, I guess is the summary there. But if they do come out with a 110 kilowatt hour car, that will be cool. I don't think I'll buy one, though. I think I'm in this mode of like conserve right now. Like, I kind of want to see what's going on and have them out there for a little bit. But I am excited about Model Y, which is supposed to be coming soon. Hopefully after March, so I don't have to do push-ups that Tim and I bet on. I had so many people at Fully Charged Live come up to me asking me about that. So you want to do the push-ups now? You want to do them here? Just want to there? Go ahead.
Have we heard the latest? Is there any more whispers of deliveries happening in soon? Or I haven't heard anything really since that one.
That's all I've heard.
Since the call.
Yeah,
basically
since the earnings.
Soon.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm happy to do them, though. I think that would be fantastic if they did that, if they got them out earlier.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and when's that battery investor day thing?
I'm super excited about that.
April, I believe. Elon said something about at the Gigafactory, what number is it, 3 or 2 in Buffalo?
Yeah.
So in April in Buffalo, I have asked for an invite. I don't know if I'll be able to go anyways, but if I do, I will bring back all the stories.
Yeah.
Did you see?
I've never been up there, so.
You see Galley's video, I think, came out yesterday about the lithium iron phosphate battery that they might start using in China.
Oh, right. The cattle thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that.
I didn't see his video, but I saw the news about it. Yeah. So the idea is that they would be able to remove cobalt, if I remember, entirely. Mm-hmm. And I forget why they haven't done that to date, but if so, that would be great for the kind of sustainable side of EVs, because cobalt is a kind of like a conflict mineral, if that's a term. So it'd be better to not use it.
Yeah. Well, and he was, I think some of this was just kind of his speculation, but I don't think it was too ridiculous that, combining the lithium iron phosphate with the dry electrode Maxwell stuff might be a way forward, and might actually get the battery packs smaller so that you could have kind of what we were just talking about, like the bigger, longer range ones if you wanted, or also the smaller 20,000 kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's so much happening in it, and when we start talking about what we're working on next, that's what I've been working on next, is a video about that. But there's so much going on that literally it's taken me forever to get this video done, because every time I think I'm ready to go, there's like some new thing that comes up. It's like, damn it. It's impossible to keep up with, and it's super exciting. Yeah,
I hear that. Yeah. Well, speaking of super exciting and like efficiency and stuff.
Go for it.
Is that a good one?
You got me curious.
So, just this week, a really cool paper got published, or the news of it got published, really. But basically, so this is something I've read about actually during the Aerospike engine research, is a way to make a really simple rocket engine, basically. And I don't understand how this works yet, so I won't be able to break it down for you, but I'll tell you the physics behind it. So this was a paper that was published by the University of Washington. They basically, here's the deal. Flames, when you actually see a flame, that's considered like a conflagration. Is that the right word? Conflagration? I don't remember. So, but I don't know how to pronounce it. It doesn't say it in here. Dang it. Okay, anyway, I was like, this will tell me if I type it in. But anyway, so the flames coming out of a rocket engine are conflagration. They can't go faster than the speed of sound. Like that's what a flame is, and that's why the combustion chamber of a rocket engine is actually subsonic. So the actual part where they're mixing fuel and oxidizer and making a boom, all of that is actually not like an actual explosion, believe it or not. It's just a flame, and then they choke it into that throat, and then it expands back out. And during that choking point, they get it up to the speed of sound. Once a gas is traveling at the speed of sound, then you can widen out your nozzle, and changing that pressure, you're actually speeding it up because it's already supersonic. So the thing is there's been a lot of people saying, well, what if we actually just used explosions, like had an actual chamber that uses explosions. The problem is, that detonation, those shock waves and all of the things of an explosion are extremely, extremely hard to contain. And, if you were to make an engine that was built off of basically having the actual explosion part, it would be really heavy and would be hard to contain. So the idea is, and it really makes sense with a, let me see if I can actually play this video here. The idea is you actually basically make an explosion and then have the shockwave ignite a ring around like the outside of a chamber, and you let the shockwave continually ignite. I don't quite get it, but basically at that point you're basically just letting like the actual shockwave come straight out of the engine, so you don't have to accelerate it, and you don't have to like. So here's it initially igniting. I hope you can see this okay.
It's kind of weird on my screen for some reason. I don't know if it's recording that way.
Yeah, it's probably weird in general. Oh yeah, it might be weird on your screen. It might be because I don't have an actual monitor.
That's crazy looking though. Look at that, like rotating around.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the bottom of the engine bell there, kind of?
You're kind of looking, yeah. And I don't think it would need a traditional engine bell. It might just need some way to, shoot that, whatever it is. They're just working on making it so the combustion can be stable enough to do that, which to be able to really have it coming out of there already at supersonic speeds without having to choke it down and expand it is kind of the idea. And this way, you don't even need to have turbo pumps. You can literally just make detonations timed in a circle, and you just keep feeding it, and it just keeps doing it.
Sounds a little bit how the electric motor works, where it just has the magnets and hitting it on to spin the thing in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, like the electricity is just kind of chasing, or the magnet's just kind of chasing the electricity around.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but
it kind of also makes me think of like the nuclear propulsion, where it's just like a bunch of explosions really quickly to like
the
push
Orion nuclear drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically pooping a bunch of nuclear engines and having it. Yeah.
Did you guys see Garrett Reisman on Joe Rogan talking about that?
I did. It was awesome. He talked about the nuclear thermal propulsion, which is slightly different and really cool too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I liked Garrett Reisman until that interview. That was an awesome interview.
Yeah, check that out.
Definitely listen to it.
It was funny listening.
He's great.
Because normally I watch the Joe Rogan thing on YouTube, and and then during the show he's like, "Well, if you can't tell by listening, I'm all of 5'4", and I'm like, "Oh, really?" Like, I didn't imagine an astronaut could be that short.
Oh yeah. There is a lower
imagine
limit.
It's an advantage in those cramped quarters.
Well, but the spacesuit, he was talking about spacewalks.
Sure, yeah.
Were going to be difficult because he wasn't big enough to like, whatever.
Yeah.
One size fits all.
So
growing up, I could be a jockey or an astronaut.
So here is the actual. So this engine and this idea has been around forever. Well, actually, what the big breakthrough was with this article and this paper they published is developing the mathematical model which matches the physics, because they've had a hard time predicting, how to actually build this, where to put everything. So they were kind of just studying the front edge of this shockwave and learning just really trying to figure out the math behind it. Because once you know the math, you can scale this thing up. You can start really tuning it and really making a proper working prototype, as opposed to these ones that are running for about a half a second, very dangerously and very unpredictably. So once they know how it functions and all that stuff, they can start to actually make some working prototypes. And again, this is an engine that, from my understanding, would actually work really well in, say, an aerospike, which is really, really cool. So maybe I'll have to start reaching out to these researchers here and tell them, hey, I'll start a company with you guys, and we'll make a detonation wave aerospike engine, and it'll be awesome. But yeah, that's kind of that news. Any questions about that?
That's cool. When's it going into production?
Tomorrow.
April.
Yeah. Ask Elon. It's like in about 2 months.
I put my pre-order in on it and put my $100 down. We'll see.
You just make a reservation with an app, right? You're like, okay, how much? What's the deposit here? $100 sold. Exactly.
So super, super, super cool stuff. So great work to the teams out there at University of Washington for working on modeling this, and hopefully we'll see more and more from this. And I'm really excited for that. So,
yeah.
By the way, I love the name of this. The YouTube title for this video is "Destructive Bifurcation of Rotating Detonation Waves."
That's keyword rich.
Page turner, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
Those
good,
rank real high.
Good nighttime reading material.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I want to check that out though, because that video looked bonkers. Like I couldn't figure out what was going on there.
So maybe if this engine is cheaper, well, because it's more simple, might be able to be built cheaper, might lower the cost of space and open up things like space tourism. But if only there was like a company out there that could open up space tourism for, I don't know, just anyone. Is there anything like that?
Queuing me up pretty well there, buddy.
Look at this.
How about we talk about it? This
City
has been some decent segues. I think we've learned a few things. No, so yeah, there's a few things that have come up this week that I wanted to kind of talk about in terms of space tourism that I think is really interesting. First is Space Adventures. So they've been launching, and Tim, tell me if I'm wrong here, with the Soyuz rockets, right? Like they're the ones that put like Dennis Tito up there. He was like the first space tourist.
Yep, and
right?
Anush Ansari. Yep.
But he was on Mir, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh God.
That was way back.
I don't remember. It was.
I just remember that
back.
name as being the first space tourist. But
I think
anyway,
it was still the ISS. I don't remember.
But they, for a lot of money, will fly a person up to stay on the ISS for a few weeks or something like that. And of course, because the ride to space has been the Soyuz rocket for the last 9 years or whatever, that's usually what they've been using. Well, now, starting this week, February 18th, that was like yesterday. Yesterday? What day is today?
2 days.
It was 2 days ago. Anyway, God, I'm so wrong. Yeah, they launched, or they announced a deal with SpaceX to go up on the Crew Dragon once that's a thing, which will be very soon, it looks like. But this is a very short little announcement here, so I'm just going to read it. It says, building on the success of Crew Dragon's first demonstration mission to the International Space Station in March 2019, and the recent successful test of the spacecraft's launch escape system, Space Adventures has entered into agreement to fly citizens on the first Crew Dragon free flyer mission. This will provide up to 4 individuals with the opportunity to break the world altitude record for private citizen spaceflight and see the planet Earth the way no one has since the Gemini program, which is a confusing statement to me.
Yeah,
not sure what they mean by that.
Well, maybe because the Apollo program, you wouldn't have orbited at those altitudes. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, yes, technically for a brief, they're kind of right because, like, say you're orbiting at, I don't know, say 1,000 kilometers, which is a lot higher than the ISS and stuff, then you're seeing a different view of the Earth and you're orbiting at that height compared to Apollo. Sure, it orbited, beyond, it went out to the moon, so it went way beyond that, but they never would have just like stayed in orbit, seeing the Earth from that stationary, or not stationary, but from that, one altitude. Maybe that's what they meant. So
I'm guessing it would go up beyond the orbit of the ISS and then come back and dock with it?
Oh, I think they're saying there's options here.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's we could send you to the ISS. You could just go up and do a 3-day trip, at the highest altitude
Gotcha.
of a private. Because if a citizen just goes to the ISS, that won't break any records.
Fair enough. Well, there's a quote here from Gwen Shotwell. It says, "The historic mission will forge a path to making spaceflight possible for all people who dream of it, and we are pleased to work with the Space Adventures team on this mission." Pretty corporate thing there. But that's kind of cool. I mean, like, before they even get a person up there, they've signed to start doing space tourism with the Crew Dragon. And that also made me start thinking about Virgin Galactic, which for some reason, just very recently, their stock has gone through the roof. In terms of, it says Galactic shares are up 14% in pre-market trading. It's been up 300% since last December and 200% since going public last October. So Virgin Galactic is a sub-orbital thing. That's where they go up on they kind of dock with the airplane thing, and it kind of lets go and goes up into space. They haven't actually started, I don't believe, with any kind of commercial flights, but they've done test runs with people. So again, it's like all this is happening before it's even started happening. Which is amazing. So this is cool. UBS estimates that the commercial space travel business will become a $3 billion industry by 2030. Virgin Galactic has 600 reservations and $80 million in deposits for flights, which are priced at $250,000 a ticket.
Can I trade a Roadster for one?
Why not? Actually, it makes me wonder what the Space Adventures thing with the Crew Dragon is going to cost.
Wait, is that the
be a
deposit
lot.
or the cost? $250K.
The cost.
The cost.
Oh, I'm in.
I don't know
Let's
what the
go.
deposit is.
But it's only about a 2-hour ride in total and like a 5-minute free flight. Free fall. You're not going into orbit.
I want my wings.
You'll get wings.
You won't. You won't. Not with Virgin Galactic.
No? They
They're
don't
only
press
going
the Kármán line?
Nope.
Oh.
They're going about 55 miles.
See, this is like the longest burn on Tim I could ever have. So
to get your wings first?
yeah, to get my astronaut wings and be like, I guess, sorry.
Okay. We're going to have to continue this podcast for a really long time because we could record an OLF
Oh yes.
in space.
Oh god.
Sponsored by. Yeah.
Seriously.
This is where we start to pimp our Patreon to make that possible.
He'll put that as a goal.
Yeah, that's our goal. That we need a $250,000 level so that we can record from space.
Just once per person. By the way, Captain Kurt in our Discord says, this is totally true, by some U.S. standards, he's asking, would they still be considered astronauts? And yes, by the U.S. Air Force, you can get your wings. So, for instance, there's 2 astronauts that were considered astronauts and got their wings on the X-15 space plane. And even though they didn't quite cross, one of them may have crossed the Kármán line properly, but I think one of them didn't. And they still, I think their line is like 50 miles. So, what is, God,
75
my conversion
kilometers
today,
or something?
81 kilometers, I think. Or it might be 55 and 90 something or whatever, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting to me because it's something that's kind of been talked about for a really long time. There is a bit of an infrastructure being built up around it, like the spaceship, Spaceport America out in New Mexico. That's where Virgin Galactic is going to launch people from. There was a video, was it Vox or somebody did a video about it that kind of showed all the inner workings of it. It's just that one picture. Let's just look at that picture. Surely there's some images here I can... Anyway, it's a neat little... Oh, here we go, maybe.
Yeah, that's not a very good website that shows off their beautiful building. That one just looked like... There we go.
No, it's an
one looks like a
amazing
hangar.
looking building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really cool looking building.
Which obviously
I will say
our
that,
listeners are not seeing it either way. But
yeah, sorry. I will say I'm surprised that they're... I mean, $250,000 is actually pretty reasonable compared to... I guarantee those rides on Dragon will still be, $20 million because a Falcon 9... because NASA is paying, I think, $65 million, basically 55, 60 million or something for seats on Dragon to the ISS. Granted, that's kind of just part of the whole contract system, and NASA will kind of be paying more for those services than a tourist. But still, say they're they'll probably still be $10-20 million to launch, on a Falcon 9 rocket with a Dragon capsule.
True. Yeah.
So $250,000 if you want to kind of get an experience like that for now is unmatched. I'm very curious what Blue Origin's price will be for a similar service with their New Shepard.
Hey, look at that! I already had it pulled up.
Hey, look at that.
But no, that's a good point. Like that's a perfect segue into New Shepard. I mean, that's the other. Oh, we don't need the music on this. Oh, how do I turn off the sound?
You don't. Right. Sound turns you off.
There you go. But yeah, so do we know what they would charge, or have they already taken deposits for New Shepard?
They've been very quiet, as they always are.
God, they are just the CIA of launch companies.
They are. And I would honestly, I feel like it's going to be cheaper. Just because it's a really simple system. It's a really simple system.
Yeah.
It's a smart system. And I feel like, flying a big, huge jet like that, plus flying a big hybrid rocket engine and all, it just seems like that's, I don't know, it just seems like that's more to maintain. This, you just kind of fill up with hydrogen and liquid oxygen and you go, I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. It might still be about the same price. But I'd be very surprised if it came in more expensive than Virgin Galactic. I'd be very surprised if it did. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. It's all reusable. The Virgin Galactic one is reusable too.
We should point out for those of you listening, I think Ben is dying.
I'm almost dead.
Man?
No.
Do you need to leave? I know you're sick and not feeling great.
You guys keep going. I'm gonna get some water.
Over.
You guys keep going. Yeah. I need water and fresh air.
You do that.
I saw him kind of collapse to the floor a couple times.
Yeah.
He's a professional, people. That's how you do.
That's not good. His son was sick all week, and so not only has he been low on energy, but he's also been, low on. Now got the sickness I think that his son had. So that's no fun at all. But yeah,
don't get the sickness. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, so we got these. So there's Virgin and there's Blue Origin doing subatomic, just get people up there and be able to see the world with above the atmosphere and everything. And then there's now Crew Dragon to be able to go up and maybe even dock with the space station. Or should this ever start to happen? Well, I wasn't able to pull up maybe just some images, but Bigelow Aerospace doing these, what is that, the B330? They want to put up a space hotel. There's that Axiom company, I think, down in Houston.
Axiom, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. Axiom is working on basically the same type of thing as Bigelow. Bigelow, I'm a little worried about. They haven't had a great year, and I'm not really finding much on what their plans are now that they kind of laid off everybody, and kind of seems like they might have hit some troubles.
Yeah, well, I talked about that not a few weeks ago, but they like right after that, there was a statement that they put out saying that they were going to move ahead with their own thing, their own space hotel. I don't know how they're going to do it without a crew, but anyway, that is a bummer. I wanted to see Bigelow succeed at that, and
for sure, they've got some really cool prototypes, and they're really far along with the development of those systems. So it's really a shame to not see it get played out when you're that far along. They've been around for a long time too.
Yeah, and I've had the idea for a video recently. I'll kind of spoil it here, I guess, but I like the idea of exploring what it does to a person to be able to see the Earth from space. Like what that does to your mindset. Like you always hear, especially Apollo astronauts talking about being able to see the Earth from that distance, from the moon. It's just like all the borders go away. All the little BS that we're all fighting about all the time just goes away. It's just this marble hanging in space, fragile, and I think it would be good for more people to be able to experience that,
Ben and I are definitely thinking the same thing right now. Yep. You're thinking about the Garrett Reisman interview, aren't you?
Yep.
Is he
talking about that too?
Let's not spoil it. But definitely, you got to hear his first time. It's hilarious. It's great.
First time seeing Earth from space, to be clear.
Yeah. I think that's that was a really good moment. That's when I'm like, okay, I really like this guy. He's just like so funny. So yeah, another plug listen to that interview because it's really good. Joe Rogan.
Let's just play the whole thing here
interviewing.
for the next 3 hours.
Right.
And we just listen.
I wouldn't get any copyright problems.
Yeah. Do you think this will be the year that we finally do see one of the space tourism companies actually fly a paying customer?
I still don't know why New Shepard hasn't done it yet. It's like, what else do you need to test?
I don't know why either of them haven't done it yet. What else do you need to test?
Yeah. Well, no, so Virgin hit a snag a while. Then they have a crash several years ago, and some people died.
5 years ago now, or
they're
so,
gonna let's just keep testing for 50 years until we hit a snag, and they'll be like, oh, sorry, cost plus contract.
Yeah.
Well, and so
No, it's
not to
not, though.
jump topics too much, but speaking of hitting a snag, the SpaceX didn't land their booster this last week.
Right. Was
it another water landing?
Soft water landing.
This is now news, folks. A booster didn't land, and now it's news. So this is actually kind of shocking because this was a mission that is now the most routine mission for them, a Starlink mission. This was their 4th operational flight, kind of 5th of the full stack of satellites. So, but as you can tell, I was there on Monday. Everything looked great. The booster, of course, did its job, and then deployed the 60 Starlink satellites. Everything was great, and they happened to hit some kind of snafu on the way down. And there's a ton of speculation. They haven't announced what it was yet.
No? Oh, okay.
There's no info about what it actually is yet. I mean, there's kind of been some whisperings, but there were really high winds around the landing site. And these Starlink missions are actually pushing the vehicle like really, really hard. They're about as hard and low margin of landings as the Falcon 9 will ever do, or likely will ever do. So if they're landing in extreme conditions where say you have this is total speculation, but I'm drawing up a scenario where you might see a nominal booster not perform nominally. And that's, if it's really, really windy and the vehicle has to totally turn to correct itself during the last bit of landing burn to try to save itself, or try to correct for that, it doesn't have enough propellant to really do a massive burn and a massive correction because it's such a low margin landing. Now, if it was a lighter payload, there's a lot more room that the engines have to be able to throttle up and veer themselves more sideways and pitch over more to correct for some of that additional movement. So there's things like that because they scrubbed it another day. First, they scrubbed it because of a upper stage valve that needed to be replaced. Then they scrubbed it because the landing weather was such a big concern. So this, unless we hear something else, we still haven't heard anything about mechanical failures. It did appear to splash down directly next to the drone ship, just barely missing it, within enough that here. So this is, well, we'll get into like the other things, but I will show you something really interesting. I didn't notice this until Scott Manley pointed it out on YouTube. But here's the landing burn. I hope this plays okay for you guys. Is it looking okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we hear the whole landing legs deployed, so we know the booster's coming in. And I didn't know this because I was live streaming, and all of a sudden, boom, off to the right, you see that splash, that smoke. And then watch this. Watch what happens after the smoke kind of clears. You actually see, get ready for water on the lens because it tipped over and splashed. Get ready. You'll see a big old splash of water here in a second. And then a few more. Look at boom, 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 boom. The lens got splattered when it tipped over.
And they cut away.
And they cut away, yeah.
Immediately.
So it had a soft touchdown. And then a lot of people were speculating. We saw this thing, and we've seen this before on boosters. I think it was around here. Where was it? There we go. So see to the left side of the grid fin, there's a little thing. We've seen that before. And actually, ironically, the only other time I really remember that exact thing was CRS-16. That was the mission that had the failed grid fins and it ditched itself in the ocean. But I don't think it's at all related because that was a stall state, some kind of state that made the hydraulic system stall out. And that's not like an open system where it's leaking and now they have leaking hydraulic fluid and it froze. This just appears, I'm guessing a lot of times just there's ice buildup around, so now you can see it break off.
Yeah.
And people
There was
were
a
going,
there was
"What
a snake
that?"
on it.
Yeah, space snake.
Space snakes.
So
I saw those in
there's
Star
a lot
Wars.
I want a shirt that says space snakes now.
Snake on a rocket instead of snakes on a
Snonks.
plane. That'll be part 2. I'll make snakes on a rocket, and it'll be part 2 of snakes on a plane.
Tired of
But
these
basically,
mother
so-
effing snakes on this mother effing rocket.
So we still don't really know, honestly, what went wrong. I would not read into that because we do see that sometimes. It's just there's so much ice that builds up around these vehicles, especially on particularly humid days. It's pretty likely that there's a solid chunk of ice sitting there, whatever, or gas or ice oxygen type of stuff or whatever. What is that, like solid oxygen? I don't know. We see that build up and stuff too. So we don't really know what happened, but it's just hilarious that these days it's like, what? It didn't land?
Yeah.
Already, this was supposed to be the 50th landing, by the way. So
Yeah, that was a bummer.
yeah, happy anniversary. But the good news is this particular booster was able to fly 4 times. Like, don't forget that. This booster flew 4 times more than a successful rocket. Like, think about that. Like, a rocket is successful if it flies once. This one flew 4 times. So always keep that in mind.
Because I am incapable of having a single opinion on anything, my first thought when it didn't land was exactly what you just said. Isn't it amazing that it's now news when they don't land? Like, that's awesome and that's encouraging and all that. But at the same time, because I can't just be happy about anything, my next thought was, yeah, but if that was Starship, people would have died.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe.
like that
Maybe.
as gung-ho as I am about Starship, there's still things like that kind of make me go, you know?
But let's extrapolate that out. So
And I know I'm pissing off everyone right now by even saying that,
well,
but it's just, that's what's going on.
it's a
in my
valid
head.
concern because you're relying on a landing burn, a propulsive landing for human lives. And that's never been done before outside
And a
of
weird
the Apollo missions
flippy-doodah thing, too.
that
It's
landed
like,
on the moon. Like those were
Yeah.
the only missions in history that have relied on propulsive landings.
oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. So, but to counter your point, these
That's if we
systems-
did
the
land
Falcon
on the
9
moon.
because God,
That's
Ben,
proof
sit
that we
back down.
didn't.
Well,
Sit back down.
I think there's another topic we wanted to talk about related to that, so I'll let you guys keep going.
Oh, you're right. We have a lot to talk about today. I like this. This is going to be a fun one. But to counter your point,
And Ben's just on the floor like, yeah, let's keep talking. Please.
yeah, he's curled over, dying.
Can I bring the microphone?
but-
Can I bring the microphone
it.
down here? Does that work?
Yeah, let's just see your forehead. You could be Wilson from Home Improvement.
Hey guys.
Yes,
We'll just see the
honestly,
top of
I
your
love
head.
it. Whatever. Do you, Ben? Just don't die. That's rule number 1. No dying. But to counter your point, the Falcon 9 landing is not human life critical. It lives critical. Therefore, it has they're going to risk it a lot more. There's no redundancy for the landing engines really because it requires that center engine to land. They're really, I don't think there's backups. Sometimes they do a 3-engine landing burn, but I don't think there's any kind of contingency that if that center engine doesn't light up, that they'll try to light 2 and do a later, more aggressive burn. Like, I don't think there's any plans in place if the center engine doesn't light up. And that's different than Starship. Starship would have the option of having 3 engines light up at kind of their minimum throttle setting. Plus, all the maneuverable systems will all be redundant. There'll be redundant ways to move those flaps, overlapping redundancies. And this vehicle, the Falcon 9 is really, at this point, lightweight. It's only like 20 tons, when it's coming into land. And so that's basically a giant sail. And it's going to be affected by the wind a lot. Actually, Starship in that case might almost be worse, though.
I was about to say.
Because, yeah, it's
Well,
ratio.
let's just
it's a lot
not
wider, there's a
land-
lot more surface area.
Let's just not land Starship on Earth, okay? Just let's not do that. Let's land it on
How would you get back then?
maybe the moon or Titan, Europa, one of those.
But how do you get it? How do you get the people from there back?
Space is dangerous,
don't.
people. Okay.
One-way ticket.
When you were on the website, it didn't have a round trip option. That should have been your first clue.
But yeah, I think, and I'm going to let them have a pass on this and not draw it as a direct comparison to Starship because it's not designed to no matter what be able to land. It's like it's still just kind of a bonus for them when they do land it ish. But I'm really thinking it'd be worth them to make it more redundant, since how much could that cost compared to losing a $20 million booster, or however much that booster cost them. It seems like that's going to cost them a lot more than, I don't know. They're probably still figuring it all out, But hopefully now they know their weakest points. I like to see them kind of fail so they know what their thresholds are, what their limits are, and how to design parameters around that for Starship.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting going forward, watching how they test it and everything. But I guess, like you said, it would be more human flight rated for the landing. It would be a lot more redundant, and they would test it a lot more and all that. But I guess the second worry for me would be that that's going to push back the actual usefulness of Starship for human rated flight anyway. I mean, we don't really talk about this, but like how much of Starship might just be used for cargo at first before it becomes human rated, kind of like they did with Dragon,
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like, I think the first several variants of Starship will be uncrewed.
Yeah.
So they really, really will practice all those things that we're talking about, so that they don't make a boo-boo,
Yeah. Which would be a
they'll have
major
plenty of data before they put anyone on that thing. I know that they're trying to get Yusaku around the moon in 2022. I mean, I'm not saying that's impossible, but like, I want to make sure they've done
100 push-up bet right
20
now.
successful landings or something.
I'll bet you 100 push-ups they don't.
Ben's
do it.
dying. That they don't do it in 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that same bet, because I don't think they'll do it in 2022 either.
I think they're being pretty ambitious with that.
Yeah. But, Starship at the same time is chugging along like absolute crazy. Like, every week, I could be doing an update on Starship updates. And again, a lot of this is, we're getting...
There are channels that do that.
I was going to say, we need to still just thank the people that are constantly, doing all this stuff. So the people at NASA Spaceflight, Boca Chica Gal is just doing amazing work. That's Mary. And then there's Lab Padre that's doing the live streams constantly, the 24-hour live streams. There's my friends at South Padre, S Padre, the surf company. So Rachel and Jean are doing awesome work. Awesome Bernard. There's Maria. I mean, there's just been so many people helping to capture all this stuff for us so that we can have these updates. But then also Elon Musk will update us, because he's basically like staying down there and just to get Starship going. I think he's like, he's got the Elon Musk, fire under his butt to get something done in a tent that we all know and love about Elon.
Is he just living in a tent since he loves him so much?
Genuinely likely.
It's called a yurt. It's a yurt.
He brought his yurt.
He's glamping. He's out there, air-conditioned tent. But this was the latest video he shared on... Oops, he's very loud. He shared this on Twitter, and we're seeing the nose cone section. And just super, super cool. Just seeing the whole factory on the inside, seeing the progress they're making on these nose cones. So you're already seeing parts of what, likely is either the top of that nose cone. I forget, people already figured this out, if that was the top of nose cone for serial number 1, or if that was the start of already serial number 2, but they're already working. He's mentioned on Twitter that they're working on serial number 2. My computer kind of hates doing video this way, so
yeah, it's doing some weird stuff.
Yeah, sorry. It's because I'm doing like a sidecar where it's like an iPad for my second screen. The other cool things that we learned is that the nose cone will have... So when I talked to Elon in September at the Starship event, he disclosed that he's hoping for the next one, which would be this one basically, that they would have the header tanks, so the tanks that are pressurized, always pressurized for flight. They're the small kind of landing tanks, that they would both be in the nose cone and share a common bulkhead as well. And they just use the walls of the nose cone just as they develop it. But now he basically let us know that the one that we're seeing now, I asked, this is what I said on Twitter. So is there still a common bulkhead in the header tanks in the nose cone, like you mentioned to me at the Starship event? If the walls are the tanks, how do you attach thrusters? Blah, blah, blah. He said the oxygen tank, header tank, is the tip of the nose cone, but the methane tank is actually inside the main methane tank. So the methane tank will have a smaller methane tank inside it for the header tank. And that's, a tank inside a tank.
Russian doll tanks.
Yeah.
Tankception.
And that's, exactly. and that's how they're going to keep keep the little bit from sloshing. Is under constant pressure, so they can do the landing burn, successfully and all that stuff.
Interesting.
Because otherwise, you can end up with that crazy maneuver. You can't have a half or an almost empty tank.
Yeah.
And all that crazy stuff. It will slosh around and you might suck up an air bubble. Yeah.
It's the fart landing.
Isn't that what that other engine you just showed us is doing, basically?
Yeah, basically.
Smart.
So it really, really...
It is methane.
It is methane fart factory. But yeah, so things are just coming along like crazy. I really wish I knew that the guy on Twitter that... I'm sorry. Maybe I'll find it on Reddit here quick. There's a guy on Twitter, and I'm so sorry that I'm forgetting your name and your handle and everything in your life. But they're doing an awesome job of tracking using photographs of what we're seeing in all these different images and showing the exact progress. I feel like I definitely have to share it here because it's super cool to see. Maybe that's under... I'll find it here in a second. Why don't you guys ask questions while I try to find this?
What we're talking about?
Starship.
Oh, Starship. Yeah.
You've been there. Oh, here we go. I gotta share this.
I sure would like to
really-
learn a
questions, I can't
lot
pick one.
about Starship. I wonder if there's a really awesome place I could learn about Starship or rockets in general.
Oh, you mean... Oh, youtube.com/everydayastronaut. No, check this out. This is really, really cool. This is from Twitter user at FAEL097, who's been doing this really cool update. Anytime we're seeing pictures, they keep showing us which parts are already assembled. Because that's the other thing I didn't even mention. They already welded. I forgot that this wasn't last week. This was this week. They welded together the oxygen tank and the methane tank, and that's what we're seeing. That big portion there on the right.
Okay.
So that's what this bigger section is. That's already done, stacked, welded, ready to go. On the very bottom right in this diagram, you see the lower thrust section. So that's where the legs are going to be attached and all that stuff, and the flaps and fins and all that. And and I forgot there's also another Elon video too as well. Sean is reminding us of in the Discord. But yeah, so there's the header tank that's going to be in the middle of the CH4 tank. So we're learning a lot here, and it's just coming together so fast. So it's making me realize it might be time that I try to find a condo to stop stalking rockets here in Florida and just start really getting ready because they're planning to static fire. I think there was a road closure or something coming up already early March. So
well, credit to I didn't catch this guy's name who put this image together because that's awesome. Because you keep seeing all these little pieces and you don't really know what they are and what the point is and everything. That's cool.
Yep. So again, user at FAEL097 on Twitter. I better just shoot a follow on him because I feel like
Twitter or Reddit.
I think that's his Twitter handle too because. Oh, okay. Oh, and there's also another video from Elon. If you want to try sharing it. With Elon sharing the giant Starship, the crane that's going to be stacking it, all this. It's really cool. And the actual high bay, it's almost. He said it's almost done. So super, super cool. And he mentioned that if he wanted to, they could probably tow. Oh, they're going to be taking. This is the other part. Sorry, all this stuff I woke up to and I was really excited. They're going to just take the Starship to get it out to the launch pad instead of having a crawler. Like a NASA crawler thing or the other things they've done. They're just going to stick basically roller skates on the landing legs because the landing legs obviously are squat enough to be able to handle, all that stuff. Literally stick giant roller skates on it and just push it out to the pad. I mean...
Could it do some maneuvering, some spins, some pirouettes on the way?
I hope so. I hope they show off. And he also mentioned it could be towed with Cybertruck, which would be really fun. So, of course he said that.
I love their simple solutions to things. It's just just put some wheels on it and just roll it out there. Just push it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's It's so true. I mean, why do we over-engineer all these crazy? I mean, the Saturn V was a different beast. You know, when you're having to roll something out that's, what was it, 353 feet tall or something, you know, rolling that out, like, if you had it off by even a few degrees, that's going to be very, very bad. So, yeah, you had to have crazy solutions for that type of stuff. But when you're dealing with something like this that's, I don't know, it's super different, super simple, and it's really exciting. So
Yeah. Well, so we have a Why Don't They Just from a Patreon supporter. But before we do that, I think we need to pay some bills real quick. So let's talk about today's ludicrous sponsor is Skillshare. So Skillshare is an online learning platform. Yes, with literally thousands of courses from some of the top experts in the field. Want to be more productive? Maybe check out YouTuber Thomas Frank's course, Productivity Masterclass. Want to learn about the stock market? Want to avoid stonks? Maybe you could check out Investing 101, Understanding the Stock Market by Business Casual. Ben, I know that's your favorite subject.
Or maybe if you want to not die and be on the floor and learn how to keep good care of your own health, can they do that so Ben doesn't die?
There's some health ones on there.
Well, I would love to learn about the chemicals that were used in my office to correct some issues prior to me coming in today.
They might not have that specifically on there.
But see, if I did take Thomas Frank's course, I would be more productive and in and out, so it would be less of a risk. So I would love that.
Right. Or if you want to learn motion graphics for videos, the guys from Kurzgesagt have a 3-part series showing how they bring their videos to life. They're really good at what they do.
They are really good.
Do they have a thing on growing a beard? Because I would really love some tips. I feel like
I've got
a pretty good one going.
Yeah. No, I have a horrible one. So
I mean, thousands of courses. Who knows?
If I go on Skillshare and I see why is Ben dying because of the poisonous gases in his office and how to correct for that, I will die then, actually. That will likely kill me.
Let me announce my upcoming course called How to Not Die with Ben from Teslanomics. It starts by drinking water and breathing air.
If you spend any time on Skillshare, I think you would be not surprised if there was something that specific on there. There's so many different things.
So many courses.
So join the millions of students already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for our listeners. Skillshare is offering our Ludicrous Future listeners 2 months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free. To sign up, go to Skillshare.com/OLF. Again, go to Skillshare.com/OLF to start your 2 months now. And because we all have the attention span of a goldfish, you got to repeat everything 3 times. Skillshare.com/OLF. Your brain and your future and us will thank you. So thanks to Skillshare for supporting this channel. There we go. Bills paid. So today's Why Don't They Just comes from Patreon supporter Huntinator7 on Discord. It says, why don't they just create electric vehicles with hydrogen range extenders? The vehicle would have enough electric range for an average daily drive, 50 miles or 100, and then a hydrogen system that could add another couple hundred miles. There's more thoughts that he had there, but why don't we just stop at that? What do you guys think about that as an option? Outside of the fact that there's absolutely no place to charge up with hydrogen or refill with hydrogen.
Well, I think in the process to make liquid hydrogen is extremely bad for the environment, and it's extremely expensive. Yeah. And I would rather just do gasoline in that regard. Unless there were infrastructure to support the hydrogen thing. Friends I know with plug-in hybrids, which is a lot of companies are going that way now. They report charging once or twice a year. Or going to the gas station once or twice a year because their daily commute is covered. So I don't really know if that's necessary given all of the crazy reasons why hydrogen would never work. Anything regarding hydrogen and transportation to me, the exception maybe like a ship or something, for a regular consumer is just out the window. Doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
Well, we need to remember that 2 things. I mean, you add a lot of complexity because now you actually have a separate internal combustion engine again. And right there, you're going to raise your cost immensely.
Well,
is it fuel cell only or is it?
I imagine
it'd be a fuel cell.
Okay.
But still, you have the whole fuel cell.
Yeah, you have another system
on there.
But the one thing that's crazy about hydrogen, and I'm learning about this in my rocket video that I've almost done rocket pollution, is that producing hydrogen, the way most hydrogen's produced is horrendously, a really, really, really bad
methane
Deal.
steam reforming.
Yes, exactly. You can do it cleanly. You can do it sustainably through electrolysis, just using like solar. But it's actually like it's inefficient to do that. But you could literally do it for free. It's just that most people say, oh, whatever, we'll just get a whole bunch of hydrogen. They could get a lot more for what would you get a lot more for what would essentially be cheaper, really. So it's so you're actually, I don't know, it just seems like you're adding a lot of things when, like, why don't we're getting batteries to be so cheap and they're getting so big and they're getting, the infrastructure is getting there so quickly that by the time you get the infrastructure up for a hydrogen thing, like, you might as well just have all battery.
Yeah, and the grid itself is getting cleaner everywhere. So it's one of those things where having a full battery is more beneficial in the long run because you have this kind of network effect where even if the power for the cars comes from the dirtiest coal power plant in the world, eventually when that gets retired or even switches to natural gas, which isn't great, but is still something like 40% better in terms of emissions, that has an automatic network effect on every vehicle that's using that energy. So the concept is, I think, that we all want to be all electric. In light of having really cheap, really high energy dense batteries that are just plentiful and available for every automaker, I think that plug-in hybrid option with gas, with a gasoline or petrol or whatever, is a better step than a hydrogen one because of all the things you just said, Tim. It just doesn't really make sense. It would be cool if you could just snap your fingers and all those things were worked out, but at the same time, it's not. And
this is one of those things that during like the EV1 era, like when Chevy made that little lead battery acid, horrible battery technology, but still made a compelling little electric car. But to make it more mass adopted, sure, in the 90s, had they done something like this, maybe that would have been a way more valid option.
Well, they did.
Nowadays,
they tried. That's what killed the electric car. One of the reasons, if you remember from Chris Payne's movie, was that the CARB rules in California, which mandated you must make zero emission vehicles, and that's where you saw Toyota and Chevy and everyone start making, like Ford made a electric Ford Ranger, Chevy made the EV1. I mean, that's where all these things were coming out. So what happened was one of the reasons why that didn't continue and now the whole world isn't electric is because of the argument for hydrogen fuel cells, which was funded by all the automakers and the oil companies. So that was the argument they used back then that killed the zero emission vehicle mandate, which then killed every electric vehicle program for every automaker. So there's more complexity to it, but this like the concept of the hydrogen thing to anyone that's been following the EV industry is like preposterous. It's like the worst idea. It's like it's like your SSTO, fully reusable something or other. Like it's like one of those things where you're like, look, we don't need to do that.
Right. You're just overcomplicating a whole thing.
When we have a clear path forward.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think the proponents of hydrogen would make the argument that, like, if you had electrolysis stations at every single gas station, you could just have a solar panel and collect the hydrogen and people can just refuel and it would be decentralized and all that. I can sort of get behind that, but that's not what's happening. It's really the methane steam reforming, which is horrible for the environment. And then it's having to get, driven in on a truck to the station.
On the road,
So it's actually dirtier than gas in some ways.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, so and it's just a thing where every time this comes up, it's like my instant reaction is just nope, done that. Nope, still no.
But it's it's a good question. I see why people would go to it, and say like, this could be a solution for this, but because it can be so quick. That's the thing is, you can refill just like gasoline. Yeah. And
now there are natural gas vehicles as well, which are lower emitting than a gasoline vehicle. And so in theory, you might be able to do that and have a natural gas plug-in hybrid kind of a thing. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to do it. I do think that I'm not one of those guys that's like it has to be all battery or death kind of a thing. I think it's like we should explore lots of options that are making progress in that direction. And I think a plug-in hybrid is actually a fair way to go. And I know a lot of people in the EV space will like disagree with me on that, but I think if you can get people started down the path, that's like the gateway drug, then they start realizing, man, I could do an electric car,
Well, yeah, when
Right.
they realize that, like you just said, they only have to fill up with gas once or twice a year. It's like, well, shoot, I could just get electric, and that actually covers all my needs better than I thought.
Right. Once you get used to like charging at home,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah. But that's still the thing. I know we say that almost every week. Is like, yeah, charging at home. But you talked about how like if we just make improvements to gasoline cars or whatever. Did you see Engineering Explained has a really good video about why it's still important for manufacturers to keep making cleaner gasoline engines and diesel engines is because if their fleet is like 98% gasoline vehicles, and if they can improve emissions by 5% on that has a way bigger effect than the 2% of, I don't know what the math exactly was, but it made a lot of sense of like, okay, I kind of get this logic, but at the same time, I'm also saying like, that still only gets you so far. You might as well really just like keep kicking into gear your EV tech, but
rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah. It's a tough thing. I think, it'll be a gradual adoption. It'll be 10, 15 years before basically all cars are electric, and it's just not even a thing. I mean, and that's probably being a bit aggressive with that estimate.
Yes and no. I feel like it's coming though. Like, look at how Volkswagen seems to be really going all in all of a sudden. It seems like all their stuff, they're just it's just happening, and they're investing billions and billions of dollars into basically gigafactories.
It's kicked off, right? We're starting it. Before it actually takes over the entire market, though, it's still a long way off. And
it's happening faster in other places than here.
Yeah, and also there's lots of different market segments that are not being addressed hardly at all by electric cars, or electric vehicles. So I think that it's very easy for us to just think about the cars we drive, but if you look at transportation as a whole, there's a whole myriad of things that are never even talked about, like just even shipping or air transportation for freight and things like that. So there are no limit to the amount of innovations we need. But you're right. Ford committed $11 billion plus. Volkswagen said they're going to switch like 20 of their 60 factories over to all electric. I mean, we're working there, and that's why I think it'll just be a gradual thing, And once people start to see them and experience them, it'll be normal. It'll seem totally normal to be like, oh well, yeah, I'm going to get an electric car. Why would I buy a gas car? Unless there was like, oh, I do long haul trucking. Like, well, okay, we don't really have a good answer for that yet. But when we do, hell yeah, I'm going the way.
Right.
So I think there's a public perception change, and then the technology and the automakers will catch up. But like autonomous vehicles, I feel we're going to see a slow progression. It'll be 10, 20 years before it's like totally just the way.
Right.
There was a guy at my fully charged talk from the Netherlands, and he said they're 50% EV there right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
Which is
crazy.
like,
and I think
the population of San Diego or something.
But still,
it's their society has
the perception has
grasped on
switched.
that,
Yeah,
and
that's
they
the
have
important part.
Adopted it. Yeah, that is the important. The thing that it still boggles my mind is when you hear from BMW and Toyota. Those are the two like most disappointing to me right now. Where they've
Especially
almost like
Toyota.
dug their heels in, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Like BMW. I know BMW's trying to do like the like a 3 Series electric. I don't remember what it's called, but like it's
Vision something or other. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that probably will hardly happen, and it'll probably be like it just seems like, and Toyota's the really disappointing one. Like, guys, do
you know how
push for
big
this.
Toyota is?
Right.
They're like.
It's stupid.
Yeah, they're I want to say they're forget it. They're so much bigger than every other auto company. It blew my mind when I saw it, and they're like the most stalwart about not going electric, and it's
which
really,
is completely ironic given the Prius as like released as this like thing of like a bastion of and now we call it like greenwashing, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's one of those things you can kind of see here. Oh, those are terrible charts. If you guys are watching, I apologize for these hideous charts here. Okay, so I was gonna see. Yeah, you can see the. Yeah, there you go. No, that's not it. I'm sorry for these terrible charts. I'll have better ones next time. But yeah, it's a tremendous amount of. Come on, Wikipedia. I think I could probably go make those charts and put them up there. But Yeah. They sell. They need to get behind it, and I actually think that there might be some hope here, in that China is going to force the issue with Toyota. So China is going to force them to sell EVs, and with that, they could continue to be stalwarts and just sell compliance vehicles and all that. And honestly, I don't know.
Compete.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how long they'll have to get on this train before they've just completely missed the boat. And I think Toyota will still be around for many, many years, maybe never go away. But if they don't, I really think if they don't make a big change, like Ford did, and like I praised Ford a couple years ago from like making these compliance vehicles to be like, nope, we're gonna make an electric Mustang and an electric F-150, like their most sacred vehicles, and that to me is, even it's still like slow going, it's still going to take time. Coming out saying that is just hugely impactful for Ford buyers and Ford customers.
Yeah.
So if Toyota did the same, I mean, even if it didn't happen for 10 years, but they said, hey, electric's the future, we're working on it, I would fully, welcome them to the party, right? You guys are allowed in now.
I have to say, because for me, as a car fan, I was waiting for so long for them to reintroduce the Toyota Supra, as a new halo car, as a new, yes, because they made the Lexus IFA, however many years ago, 15 years ago or whatever. And yeah, that was a halo car, but it was, $300,000 or whatever, $400,000 for a car that's not actually that fast, really. It's cool.
Not by today's standards.
Not at all by today's standards. And then the Supra was even worse. Like, it came out 2020. I know it wasn't supposed to be up in IFA class, but still, it's just kind of a slow car. Like, it's not a very fast sports car by today's standards. It seems like if it came out 10 years ago, sure. I can't believe when they came out with this new Halo car, they had all this time to make it. Why didn't they make it, almost like, what's the Rimac or whatever?
Oh,
Rimac?
yeah. The Croatian company or whatever?
Yes,
the concept
that makes
one.
Crazy. Or no, not Rimac. Rimac. Oh, who's the one that makes the electric supercar?
Karma?
Yeah, Rimac. No.
Rimac?
Karma is the one that bought the Fisker thing.
Right, yeah.
And Rimac, however you say it, is the one that what's his name crashed on.
John Hammond or somebody, or Top Gear guy
from Top Gear, Richard Hammond.
Richard Hammond, there you go. See, I don't know.
He crashed it, and so that that's where they took an electric car and they made it insane. Like that thing is crazy,
now,
and I really wish Toyota had done something more like that.
Yeah, I did that video I did a while ago of like the Tesla Roadster, the new one versus all supercars or something. It still gets a ton of views and a ton of comments, and so many people say that. They're like, well, the Rimac 1 or whatever is better than this. But the deal is that is not technically a production car. They've made like 25 of them ever, and they're all hand built, and they're all like millions of dollars. Right? Somebody fact check all those things I just said. But point being, like, it's not like Tesla's going to be like, we're going to make 10,000 of these, and we're going to do it on a manufacturing line. So, but you're right. I mean, I think, the one that surprises me too is Subaru. I'm not like, they're kind of the outdoor adventure brand from an auto standpoint, and where are they at? I was just at CES or a month or so ago. I saw everything there. I saw nothing Subaru wise. I was like, wow, this is kind of surprising. You think they would really jump on this train?
Right. That's weird.
People love their Subarus too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Subaru is a great company. That's the thing is a lot of these, that's why it's so disappointing, is these are great companies we're talking about. BMW, Subaru, Toyota, like awesome cars. Why are they not, like, I'm nervous that if by 2021 you're not putting out in 2022 a mass production valid EV and moving in that direction, you might be actually heading towards the grave, because I just really think that's the way the market's going.
Speaking of heading towards the grave, Jaguar, I don't know how you say it. I'm not, I'll learn when I go to the British place. But Jaguar is shutting down their I-Pace program.
I saw that.
Really? I did not know that.
Shortage of batteries from LG Chem.
Wow.
So no more I-Pace, which is fine. That thing should die. It sucks. So,
but it's really good looking. I saw
one on the road recently, though.
Yeah.
Here in town, but it was some kind of I don't know. It had like I-Pace across the side in big letters, like it was some kind of show
from the
thing.
dealership.
Something, yeah. It was clearly not like somebody just went out and bought it. It was some kind of
So
special
are you
thing.
telling me that the I-Pace isn't a Tesla killer?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no such thing. Yeah, it's
It wasn't a Tesla killer.
But there were all
It does
those
look
breathless
good.
headlines.
It's a
does look
really
good.
good looking car. I love that.
I don't know about
It's
the
great in
interior.
person. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about the interior either, but
My if you guys saw Doug DeMuro's review, and I talked to him after he did it, because it was here in San Diego. He was like, "Yeah, this is like a Jaguar owner's car. This is not a traditional, like a normal person would get in this and be like, what the heck is this going on?"
yeah.
Which sucks. You know, I
Yeah.
don't like this car. I never have. I'm happy it's dying, but it sucks that we have one less automaker making compelling electric vehicles. Because it was compelling to a very small segment, and if anything, the negative of this is the Fudsters or Jaguar is going to stand up and say, "See, no one bought them. We made them, and they were good, and it didn't sell." And you're like, guys,
Well, that's
give me
their
a break.
fault for not making it good enough.
100%, yeah, I agree, and that's why whenever someone comes out with a compelling product in this space, that to me is where I feel like I give them all the loves, right? Even if there's like a terrible past, like the Chevy Bolt, for example. I don't like the car. I don't like Chevy. I think they have a terrible like history with electric vehicles and all that. However, I do think it's a compelling product. And I do think a lot of people like it. So totally fair. Like, hey guys, keep doing that. Upgrade this thing. Like, let's go. So I'm not one of those people that's very like Tesla or bust, right? Like Tesla makes
Right.
the best electric cars objectively. There is no way I think you could literally argue that, except maybe that Rimac Concept One $3 million supercar or something. But
Right.
I think if more companies really just start to bring compelling products, that's when I think it's going to get really interesting. And right now, there's very few of them. Volkswagen is one where I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, me too. Making up for their Dieselgate scandal.
The multiple diesel gates in multiple countries, which hey,
Yeah.
that's how we got Electrify America and Electrify Canada. So
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
and those are compelling. I mean, not as good as superchargers, as I pointed out in my one video, but hey, you can get a 300 kilowatt hour or kilowatt charge. Yeah, awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah. So speaking of your video that you made once, Joe, what are you working on this week?
Video that I made once.
I don't know. I mean, Ben just said that he made a video about Electrify America or whatever. Maybe he
We
didn't
did
even
so
say
good
that,
with
but
our
whatever.
segues earlier.
Take my segue and use it. Come on.
You take the Segway and drive it to an electric car place.
So I did kind of tease this up a little bit earlier because we just happened to be talking about it. But so this is probably the closest thing I've done so far to a Raptor engine video kind of thing. I'm trying to catch up with you, Tim. It's on cobalt. It's on the issue of cobalt in batteries, how bad it actually is, what the solutions are, that kind of thing. I've been working on this probably for 3 months. And I met a couple of people at Fully Charged Live that I have interviewed since then, and I'm going to be putting them both into this video. Without the interviews in it yet, it's already at 30 minutes. So
Yeah,
this is a very
Great.
long, it's very long and in depth. This was one of those like and I think this is what you're talking about, Tim, when you're working on a video and it's like every time you research some little fact, you find some other rabbit hole that you just totally fall
Yes.
down. And it's like, oh my God, now I got to put that in there. Like, I can't not put that in there, you know?
Right.
So that's
Yep.
what the process of this one has been. There's been multiple nights working on the script up till 3 or 4 in the morning, trying to get it out.
Well
and
done.
it's already been pushed over and over again. But so I'm excited about it, and I hope it does well. It is such
Otherwise,
a
you're never
complex
doing it
topic.
again.
Well, I mean, maybe it'll be more. We'll see. I mean, if it does well, I might do more on that in the channel. But
Well, let me argue to the counterpoint of doing these types of, I'll say, flagship videos.
Sure.
Is it really does, solidify you as a content creator and an educator of like, this is a valuable video because you did a lot of the work to it. So even if it doesn't have great views, I think it helps people like, learn more about your research and learn more about how you produce videos and that you care
Sure.
about your your content. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's
maybe.
No, I see where you're going. Just people already think that about me, so whatever. But no.
I mean, have you seen Joe in real life? I mean, just whew, that is a beautiful man. You know, anything he says, you're
Everyone
just like
flocking
yes.
to him.
Well,
Yes.
Everyone flocking.
They were flocking
Flocking.
with their wings. But anyway, it's all about the cobalt issue, and I go into what's going on in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, why it's such a problem, what exactly the types of mines are that are the issue here. There's a lawsuit that came out in December where they're actually suing not the mining companies, but like Apple, Dell, Tesla, Microsoft, like all these guys, because they all have rechargeable lithium-ion batteries in their stuff, and some of the cobalt in those batteries are coming from these artisanal wells where children are working, and there's mine collapses and people are dying and stuff. So it's like the very quick wrap up would be the parts of it that are bad are as bad as you've probably heard, but it's not as much as you think it is in the overall scheme of things. So anyway,
Leonardo DiCaprio, is he involved?
I didn't get him involved, no.
But that's similar to the video that I'm still working on. I'll go ahead and jump in. But it's the same thing where it's like rocket pollution. The parts that are bad are really bad. But like in the grand scheme of things, like it's negligible, you know?
Yeah.
And I finally shot the intro and the outro to that at Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex the other night. So that's
cool.
Good. And I ended up only doing the intro and outro because literally the night before I was going to shoot a good portion, you know, as much of it as I could there, research rabbit hole. But it's a really good one where it answered literally my question of how bad is water vapor in the stratosphere. I found a very solid paper. So I've been reading through that and just making sure I understand what the paper is saying. And that was a huge, huge question mark in my script that I just was like, I'm not even going to go down this rabbit hole. So now I can. Well, it's actually not even it's not a huge rabbit hole now that I have the answer. But I was nervous I was going to have to figure out the answer.
Do you have evidence that the stratosphere actually exists?
God,
do we know this? Has it even been proven?
We didn't even talk about that this week, about our whatever. We'll get into that next week maybe. How about that?
We had a flat earther moment earlier, discussion that we wanted to add, but we'll save it as we're going kind of.
Yeah, we'll save it for next time. But so the good news is for me, I'm actually in the process of literally finishing the script. It's pretty much done. Sanzi's last minute edition, started shooting it even, so it's on its way to actually happening, and I'm really, really, really excited. So yeah, that's what video I'm working on. I released a video today about some of the slow-mo footage we've captured of the recent launches too, with like the telescope and stuff. Really good audio from my friends at the Cosmic Perspective have provided awesome launch audio, and we just kind of put some of the stuff together. So it was a quick little like 3-minute montage of like really pretty launch footage that I'm excited just to have something out there, because that's something else I'm working on that I'll tell you guys about in a little bit. Ben, what are you working on besides dying?
Well, I was gonna say I'm feeling a bit better. I think the lightheadedness from the fumes in the office I've either all the drugs I've done in my past life have built up a tolerance, or they weren't actually toxic. I don't know. Feeling better. Life is going on. I do have a video that not exactly that an epic, as you may call it, but it's along those lines where I saw this guy. I forget his name. He's a car guy on Joe Rogan. Again, shout out. But he was saying that LA could not go 100% electric because the grid couldn't handle it.
So the data is, or do we have to watch your video?
You got to watch the video, but I actually I'm working with a writer/researcher to help figure this out. And one of the crazy, I'll just give you a little nugget, is that in California, there is a huge amount of solar power energy from all these massive solar farms we have that are not even being used. It's not even being used in the grid. Because the amount of, so you build a grid to handle peak loads. So on a like an even level, the actual kind of like the AI computers that will do self-driving, like they're 100 times or whatever like more capable than your solid state use of them, because at certain times you may need to go up there. So in digging in, it was really interesting just to see what the reality is and whether or not that is something that could happen. So that's kind of a big one coming on Monday or Tuesday. I've got my Model X review, which is I'll just say it. I'm not the biggest proponent of buying one. So, but you'll have to wait and see all the details and all the rants. And I think it's like 20 minutes long. So.
Well, I saw your video about which Tesla to buy right now, and it kind of surprised me that you went with the 3, not to spoil it, but because you've always been such a fan of the S.
Yeah, so I did the which, and I like doing that. That was an idea someone sent me, was like, what's the best Tesla to buy right now? Do that every 6 months or as new models come out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
they change all the time, too.
Yeah, well, and there'll be like a little update here, a little update there, a big update here, so it kind of shifts even with only 3 models. But the deal with that one, I got a lot of comments on this. They said, well, look here, I had a scorecard going, and the Model S wins like almost every category, right? Like range, performance, tech, not charging, range, performance, tech, like all these things. It's like the best. Or tied with the best, because I kind of put it above the Model X in terms of tech, even though the Model X is way more advanced. I think it's like too advanced that it's like problematic.
Is its downfall. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a little bit like if the Model 3 is a minimalist car, the Model X is a maximalist car, and it's a bit over-engineered. So I was like, But anyways, in the end, the deal is that given the limit on charging to the Model S and Model X, and the price, the Model 3 is just hands down the better value. Now, if money is no option and you don't care, like $100,000 for a car is peanuts and you won't even miss it, yeah, the Model S is a better car. But even then, I would probably buy a used one because a used one could save you $20,000-$30,000 and practically be the exact same car as a brand new one. And I said that in my Model S review, which was just a couple weeks ago as well. So, I guess there's a weighting to that scorecard. And that was a fair point that some people made, that I should add like, hey, these things are just showstoppers. This is just a deal breaker. So now if the Model S had V3 charging and 110 kilowatt hour pack or whatever, yeah, even for that price, it would be the better option if you could afford it. So, yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Well, there's some good videos coming out.
Well, hopefully they're helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Hopefully
guys,
people make it all the way through mine.
I will, because it will be hilarious. Otherwise, I will be very upset.
There's not much that's funny about that topic.
Well,
you
also,
failed.
There's a lot of interesting stuff, though.
We might have to figure this out next week, but I mean, maybe we just record on my birthday, but my birthday is 1 week from now, so maybe it'll be a special birthday
It's going to be 24 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm almost over the hill, or whatever you say.
Are you allowed to drink? Have I contributed to the delinquency?
Guys, come on. I'm turning
And Joe,
35.
you're only a couple weeks away too, right?
Can you even drive?
I don't need to.
Yeah.
Oh, I did forget to
not
mention
anymore.
full self-driving. Full self-driving is getting installed in my car while it's in the shop, so that's good.
Cool.
Assuming
the new chip and everything?
you get
the
the
new
car.
chip.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'll get the car, Ben. Jeez.
Assuming they're not like, hey, here's a brand new one. Never mind. Sorry.
He drives out of the Tesla dealership over a puddle, and he's right back in there again.
It's just a circular driveway. You just come out, and it just goes right back.
Screw you guys. Well, we'll see you guys in
our ludicrous future. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do and you want to kind of help get it out there, you can give us a nice review on any of your podcast streaming platforms, whichever one you use. That kind of helps get it out there. Also, we do have a Patreon set up, so you can join us there at patreon.com/ourludicrousfuture. You can get your name in the credits, meet a whole other group of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. We do appreciate it. We'll see you there.